Initially, N.O.K land was never part of Ethiopia. It was never part of Sudan. Gambela is a very strategic place, and it was still a strategic place for the colonizers and also for the imperial regime of that time. The existence of Gambela to the leadership of Ethiopia at that time was not that significant because Gambelans were seen as people who are primitive and were backward. And therefore, in terms of development, no much development was given a lot of impetus in Gambela by the regime that was there and even the regimes that have actually followed after that. The Gambelan people have been denied education simply because the feeling has been if we allow them to get education, these people are likely to get empowered. And therefore, we can only contain them where they are by denying them education systematically. As an advice for me to the leadership in Gambela, one, I would say to the leadership in Gambela, a good leader listens to his people.
Thank you.
Unity of purpose is very critical.
Foster.
Yes, are you hearing me?
Finally, you get in.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think there is an issue of network.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for coming first. Our main objective today, and how can we educate the world that the minority or the host community of Gambela, which is Anua, has been killed or the killing been going on by the refugee who has been hosted in Gambela region for many years. I think I sent you some articles since 1962. The refugee are being taking our women. They are being kidnapping the children. They have been killing every living things, including pregnant women, and they've been slaughtering them. And the Ethiopian government has been silent because they are getting benefit out of this refugee. Our main objective is not for the refugee to be repatriated to South Sudan, but our main point is to relocate them from Gambela because we are tired of them. We are tired of crying. We are tired of killing. We are tired of our blood being shed. So you are welcome. As you read and did your own research, your message will go worldwide. It will go to some of my friends. Some of them are in the Congress. Some of them work with the union. They are friends with me. I will share it with them. And some of them are in DC. So you are welcome. The stage is yours, and you will speak whatever you want.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ababut, for having me, and thank you for the invitation. The story of the N.O.K people for me has been a painful experience and also a story to listen and also a story to walk along with the N.O.K people. Allow me to go back a little bit back in history.
Thank you.
Initially, N.O.K land was never part of Ethiopia. It was never part of Sudan.
Thank you. Can you repeat that? That's a very important point.
I'm saying, historically, the Gambela and the N.O.K land was never part of Ethiopia, was never part of Sudan. It was an independent region that existed peacefully all by itself. How did it come to be part of Ethiopia? It was a marriage of convenience between the Emperor Haile Selassie and the British colonizers of Sudan then. If you remember very well, during the colonial times, Islam was spreading through South Sudan downwards toward the south, and the region that they were likely to penetrate into Ethiopia was through the Gambela region. However, Gambela is a very strategic place, and it was still a strategic place for the colonizers and also for the imperial regime of that time. And you remember the Italians were also threatening the peace and the existence of Ethiopia as an independent nation then. And therefore, the British saw an opportunity, and the emperor at that time saw an opportunity to enter into a marriage of convenience, where the British wanted help to stop the spread of Islam through Gambela coming from the side of Sudan. Now, the emperor also wanted to access Port Sudan through the rivers of Gambela.
Okay.
And therefore, for him to be able to get access to the waters of Port Sudan through the west, the only region he could actually get into that was through Gambela. And therefore, they entered into a pact whereby Gambela would be a buffer zone to stop the spread of Islam into Ethiopia through Gambela. And that's how now British came into that kind of arrangement with the emperor at that time. And if you remember history again, when Emperor Selassie was dispossessed from leadership by the Italian at some point, he left Ethiopia through Port Sudan and through Gambela itself.
Wow.
Are you getting this?
Yes, I'm getting it.
There was one of the presidents of America who also donated a boat to the emperor earlier at some point, which was actually being used to travel from Gambela all the way to Port Sudan. And therefore, we need to get that fact straight. Gambela was never part of Ethiopia, was never part of Sudan. It is a marriage of convenience between the yes.
If you can pause a little bit so I can translate it, this point only to our audience, most of them who doesn't know English. Yeah, pastorinary ke core history mana numbe ya kwano ke per ngomanywa, which is be Gambela per ngomanywa. Chana goni man Gambela be kerbiro nena Sudan, kerbiro nena Ethiopia. Be patch minuto ka goni mediri karaji kere ke nyet ke kwari. Man be pastor mar Kenya ke kor kwana man mujinu kwana kaga. Achagon mo ejiu ko jenene Gambela kerbiro nena Ethiopia, kerbiro nena Sudan. Be patch mediri karaji kere kacheni ke nyet mare ke kwari mwa. Una poanya mera. Thank you. You may continue. Some of them are your students here who are in the Western country. Thank you.
Now Gambela now becomes part of Ethiopia. How do we proceed as Gambelans being part of Ethiopia? One, the existence of Gambela to the leadership of Ethiopia at that time was not that significant because Gambelans were seen as people who are primitive and were backward. And therefore, in terms of development, no much development was given a lot of impetus in Gambela by the regime that was there, and even the regimes that have actually followed after that. And therefore, you look at issues to do with education. The Gambelan people have been denied education simply because the feeling has been, if we allow them to get education, these people are likely to get empowered. And therefore, we can only contain them where they are by denying them education systematically.
Wow.
If my history serves me well, as I have followed the story of the N.O.K people over the last 15, 17 years,
yes,
the brightest students in those regions or in that region could not be allowed to pass exams by the national government in Ethiopia. The reason being, if we allow them to get education, these people are likely to grow empowered and they are likely to begin to clamor for freedom for their region. And therefore, much of the young people, especially young boys, would only be allowed to join the military and they would be used by the regime to fight their own people.
Wow.
You could only find most Gambelan young men in the military who would be used to fight against their own people. That's one.
Wow.
The other thing was, since this is a minority community, and you look at their region, it is endowed with very many resources. There are a lot of animals in Gambela. The land itself is rich for agriculture. The waters are immense. And you could also look at it and find that there was a lot of God. And therefore, to contain the people and to fight and meet them, beat them to submission, was to ensure that other people from other regions are allowed to come in to Gambela to neutralize the local community.
Wow.
When people from other regions come to Gambela, they are given land, they are given opportunity to do business at the expense of the locals, which means then the economic power of the Gambelan people is not allowed to grow, but foreigners come They thrive, but the community remains at the bottom of the scale. Yes.
Ko jene nika permana Gambella yede resource mutod kamano tere warke ke lagli pi todye ke jammi mutod de ke japkoro ginati jo Ethiopia ke juru mwa ka mano tere tel yene ke nyiglichi ke permana manywa ngom moge mogi ba juru moy ga manya nyaga ne jammi ne ukalgi ji muru wede mo ko ngom ke perna nywa ne go ne woli ngom mogeni koran no moji ke ngom no joji mo gino mo ka tek gede mo ko wen ki jammi mo tiel ga nywa pen ko goni mana ge chena tay ki mini liki chena kare ni pokar pira ele strasi. Thank you, Pastor. Continue.
So you see, their young people are used for military operations against their own people. They are denied education. Then other people from other regions are brought to Gambela to neutralize the local community such that they will not grow to a point whereby they can stand on their own. Now, the issue of the Nuer people now coming in Sudan as refugees has also added to the problem in Gambela.
Thank you.
Again, you see politics playing a hand in this, whereby the land is rich, but the way to get the resources, plunder the resources, is to create a confusion within the local area, such that we are able to come and get some bit of resources from this region and then cause chaos at the expense of the local people. Killing people in Gambela is nonsensical to the people who want to get the resources. And if you remember very well and look at it internally as an individual, if you are not a Christian as such and you do not have the story of your people at heart, one of the things you will do is that you will confuse people and then get what you want within their confusion. And then after that, you leave them to fight amongst themselves. So what needs to be done in Gambela at the point is this. It is the N.O.K people who should now realize that, gentlemen, we need to stand up and tell our story and fight for our own region and for our own existence. Because if you don't speak about your own existence and you don't share your story, nobody else will come and share your story. You can step on people for too long, but the time comes when people should actually stand and say, hey, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to speak. And therefore, at this point in time, the story of the N.O.K people needs to be kept alive. And nobody else will do the story unless you people do the story for you. And therefore, my encouragement to you is this, gentlemen, keep the story alive. Because if you keep quiet, nobody else will come and talk about the story for the N.O.K people.
Wow.
Shout if you can shout. Don't stop talking. Talk. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor. You made a remarkable point. Most of the things you have said, I'm not aware of it, which I'm very delighted to go through again. And our audience here who are watching and listening, they are very much relieved today, knowing that Gambela never been a part of Ethiopia nor Sudan. And from the bottom of my heart, which you are telling the truth, these things exist. Even it is in the book of Conrad, Richard, and we name one of them called Kwachakworo. Some of them are there. This will not be the first and the last person. I will be looking forward to invite you in some sudden occasion, especially for most of our Luo people whom you share land with them in Kenya there. Some of them are in Uganda. So I just would like to ask you one favor in terms of what to do, which you said, don't keep quiet, you have to speak up because the history will be rewrite. So one thing I would like you, if you can put your input, what is your message to the N.O.K leader who are in Gambela, number one? Number two, what is your message to all Gambela or N.O.K people who are in the Western country here, who have the ability and the resources to do whatever necessary for the world to hurt the pain and suffering of N.O.K people? So this the third thing, what would you help us with, especially the Anua who are in Nairobi, to let the East African community know that there are people in the land called Gambela who are being denied with many access to education, access to many opportunities. So this third question go to you as you are winding up. I would like you to, say whatever you can to educate our people or to let them know this is the possibility you can do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ababut. Let me say that anything is possible so long as you are willing to take action. Number two, courage does not mean an absence of fear. It means speaking your mind and the truth despite the circumstances that you are in.
Okay.
So for purposes of, as an advice for me to the leadership in Gambela, one, I would say to the leadership in Gambela, a good leader listens to his people.
Thank you.
A good leader listens to his people. To a good leader helps his people to help themselves. Nyerere said this, you can never develop people. You can only help people to develop themselves.
The former president of Tanzania, right?
Yes, he said you can never develop people. You can only help people to develop themselves.
Okay.
And therefore, a leader in position should always create an environment that is conducive for his people to develop and build themselves. If you build yourselves as individuals and as a community, the nation becomes empowered. And when the nation is empowered, the economy also grows. At this point, we don't need to continue fighting. We only need to open the economic space for the people in Kampala. And opening the economic space for the people in Kampala, one, create environment for people to go to school, get education, get empowered. Because again, education, as it has been said by this famous doctor, black doctor in the US, Ben Carson, education is the greatest equalizer. If you give people an opportunity to get education, despite the fact they come from different locations and different backgrounds, if they are given equal opportunity to access education, these people will equalize at some point. So education is critical for the people of Gambela, whether in Gambela, whether as refugees in Kenya, whether as immigrants in other nations of the world. Education is very critical.
Thanks.
Number two, or rather three, a leader always creates other leaders.
Okay.
You are here for a time, and tomorrow you will not be there. You
Good.
multiply yourself or you reproduce yourself through people whom you lead. Now, with the people of Gambela who are overseas, I would say this. Remember, God gave you an opportunity to go to the US or to Canada or to Australia for a reason. Maybe to get what you couldn't get in Gambela. Now you are the voice of your people around the world. Don't get settled where you are. Remember, you have a duty to educate and to support your people. You can consider at least supporting 1 or 2 children to get education in Ethiopia, in Uganda, in Kenya, or wherever. That way you'll be contributing. Number two, for the people who are overseas, remember, divided you'll be beaten, but united you will stand. You need to come together, speak in one voice. Whether you are in Australia, whether you are in Canada, whether you are in America, please speak in one voice. Become united. You need to call yourselves for a meeting as the N.O.K people and chart out a way for you people out there, and also translate that unity into Gambela by speaking for your people. Remember, you have a upper hand, you people up there. You have the opportunities up there. But your people down here are suffering and are crying for such opportunity. Do not allow the progress you see in America, the development you see in Canada, the progress you see in Australia consume you, lest you forget the people whom you left behind. They are looking at you. Offer leadership to your people back at home. For those who are in Nairobi and East Africa, again, I would say this. Unity of purpose is very critical. As you cry for those who are at the West to help you to talk, to support you, get education, and speak for your people, you also have a way and have a say even locally here. I am sure some of you, who are in Nairobi and have interacted with some of them, are looking forward to going to America. What if the opportunity for you to go to America doesn't arise? Does it mean that is the end of the community here in Kenya? No, the community will still live. Therefore, you also need to be united here and speak in one voice.
Wow.
Unity in every region at whatever level is very critical. Chart yourselves out, put yourself together, and ask those who are also across in other nations to support you. Define your way forward. Define your need here in Kenya, and talk to those who are also on the other side and your friends across the world, and help them understand what you are going and what are your needs. That way you'll be able to stand as a nation. However, friends, pain at this moment in time does not mean this is the end of the N.O.K people.
Right.
The future is brighter than the darkness we experience today. It might take some time, but I assure you, joy is coming, freedom is coming, and it is coming tomorrow. And some of you will be able to sing from all the corners of the world as you enter into Gambela very soon and declare, indeed, we are free at last. We are free at last. We have made it, and God has given it to us. So keep united, keep talking, and above all, remember God is watching and God is fighting for you. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Looking forward to talking to you again.
Wow. Thank you so much, Pastor, for dedicating the message of unity, peace together. This is the most important message to the N.O.K people around the world today, which God has inspired you, to tell all the N.O.K living under this sun to come together to bring unity, peace, and prosperity so that we can defeat the spirit of darkness. Thank you so much, Pastor. I can see that a lot of blessing is pouring in for you.
Yes.
This will not, like I say, will not be the first and the last. You will come in a certain time where you prepare yourself, and you will tell our people. And it will not be the last too for you to see your people around here in the Western country, if God willing, to organize a unity conference so that you can speak among N.O.K people.
Thank you.
As we name you, Pastor Omot, you will carry that name forever. Thank you, Pastor, and may God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Akona kai wenu ye doto kai wenu ye betu no dedo yoma. No matter what kel mo nok ina munu doto bungir pen mo pauni. The changachel o wine work dudi ni freedom at last, freedom at last. Thank God Almighty. Katem Martin Luther King. Manago chana pastori. Doto nyemera. Benichan pastori go. And a jurmar Kenya ubero no po jopo e punyo kore de chain and a dano makare duang mudwal mare du winji but ngom. Thank you so much, Pastor. Our people love you, as you can see down there. Nyemera juak de po Pastor manabe mark ngat Kenya ni chana kulumu wakaloj man winji go anytime doti mwachara ka pergelet do. History mara lamina wobde man no motor Ethiopia or Kenya o mar Ethiopia katek o amino mar Sudan katek ngom moge ena kurkerge.
More Don't